Shannon?
Yeah.
There we go.
Barbara, thank you all for joining us today at this hybrid event. I do want to let you know that Senator Shaheen has also passed along her congratulations and appreciation to the award winners. Thank them all for making the impact in our state, and her office will be sending along a congratulatory letter. As a reminder, this event is only possible through our sponsors, who are invited to share congratulatory messages via social media, of which the Alliance will continue to share. All social media tags will be posted in the chat, and we welcome anyone who has attended the event to help us celebrate today. We are now transitioning to the keynote portion, and I'd like to welcome Leslie Buckley, the Northeast Division Vice President of Reliability for Comcast, to the stage. And Leslie, it looks like you need to turn your mic on as well.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Welcome. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Just want to double check for one moment and make sure you can all see my screen, which I'm about to share. All right. Is that visible?
Not visible yet, Leslie.
Okay, thank you. And let me.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
See your desktop now, not quite your app yet.
Okay. Can you see it yet?
We see your desktop, but not the app.
Oh,
And maybe it's on a different window.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pull that over. Hold on. And you can see my messy desktop. I'm sure everybody's out.
There we go.
All right, perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you for your patience, folks. So good morning, and my name is Leslie Buckley, Division Vice President of Network Operations and Reliability Engineering at Comcast. I'm honored, privileged, and quite frankly, humbled to be with you today to share my story, one woman's non-traditional journey through a career in technology and the lessons learned along the way. Over the next 20 minutes, I hope to provide you with a glimpse into my story, my challenges, and my learnings, in hopes that you take one small piece from my journey to help your journey or the journey of other women and girls in tech. I believe that storytelling is a powerful way for each of us to connect and learn from one another. So I'll share some stories along the way during my conversation. But first, I'd like to share some statistics that will support the call to action that I'll share with you at the end. So I just want to do a quick check. Can you see the did you know slide?
It looks like it's still on your intro side. You may need to move it into presentation mode.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Thought I had that, but let me, oops. Hang tight, I will get this, I promise. All right. Okay, are we good now?
We're good.
All right, perfect. So, so in 2018, when we take a look overall at jobs in tech, women held only 20% of all jobs in the tech industry in 2018. And as I did some additional research, that really hasn't changed too much. Women make up half of the total workforce. As we look at women rising within tech leadership, representation decreases. So from an entry-level perspective, we start at 20%, but when we get to the executive levels, it falls to about 10%. When we think about our lives, the world is at a point where most aspects of both our personal and working lives are shaped by technology. Many of us have smart appliances, store photos in the cloud, stream on our phones and tablets, not to mention all of the technology need both for virtual learning and remote work, as we've experienced in 2020. The low number of women in tech means that some tech products and services are designed from the male perspective and to meet the needs of male users, even if they're intended or meant to be used by both men and women. So what that gap creates in the tech industry is it means that women are not getting opportunities to play a part in shaping the future of society. I love events like today that have a focused effort on women in the tech industry to make them more visible and show that women can thrive in tech careers, and they are vitally needed to shape the future for all of us. And I'm going to continue to try to do this. All right. I know this is not the most graceful way, but so let me tell you a little bit about me and the road that I've traveled throughout my career. So who am I? I am a transformational leader, an innovator, a strategist, and a disruptor. So when I think about those statements, as a transformational leader, I can transform and have had many experiences transforming organizations to operate differently and to get people aligned with the journey. As an innovator, I create new and different ways to think about our business. As a strategist, I can operate in the now while envisioning a new future with the lens of possibility. And as a disruptor, I'm known as the person who challenges the status quo, always asking the question, why? Why are we doing this? Why do we need this? You can see here, I've had a lot of experience in tech ops, engineering, network operations, over 20 years of experience in network technology and field operations. I am proud of the fact that I both develop and lead diverse teams, and I ensure that I have diversity on the teams that I do lead. I'm an executive sponsor for Comcast's Women Network, and I support our diversity and inclusion initiatives. I am passionately focused on women and technology and supporting STEM initiatives. I'm also a mother, a sister, a friend, love to hike, read, bike, and I'm a foodie. This is one of my favorite clip art moments, and I use it whenever I can. It was never a dress, so I really love that. Just wanted to share that with you. As as I share with you my journey, it truly is non-traditional. So if you look, you can see on this slide, I hold a bachelor's degree in sociology from Suffolk University, a master's degree in organizational development and behavior from UMass Boston, and an MBA from Simmons College School of Management. You will notice that there is no engineering or technology degree. I do, however, have a passion for problem solving, creativity, and operations. Entering the workforce right out of college, I began working in the field of criminal justice as a police training coordinator in Massachusetts, one of the very few women in this line of work. I was never directly looking for a career in technology, but I found the opportunity to learn different aspects of technology. Through a very interesting course of events, I moved into the fields of technology and network operations, field, construction, and technical operations roles. So let me tell you a little bit about that story. I was leading the program development of Enhanced 911 in Massachusetts in partnership with NYNEX, which is now Verizon. I was intrigued by the work that the systems engineers were doing, and they suggested I come to work with NYNEX. I was offered a role as a training coordinator, and essentially I came to the company for the benefits. I had 2 little children. My late husband worked in retail, and frankly, our health benefits weren't that great. So that is essentially why I made the move. After about 6 months in that role, I was offered the opportunity to go into a technical supervisor role, leading a team of switch surveillance technicians in a NOC, Network Operations Center. The only thing I knew about switches at that time was they were used to turn on and off the lights at my home. I also had never supervised a team before. I was nervous and a bit uneasy at the opportunity, but my father gave me some great advice that I carry with me still today. He said to me, Leslie, you're smart, you're curious, you love to learn. You can learn anything if you're interested and willing to ask questions. The people who do the job every day will teach you what you need to know. He also said to me about the supervisory piece, treat people the way you want to be treated. Simple lessons of life from my dad. My career has been a series of amazing opportunities. My willingness to take on the opportunities presented to me, being comfortable with asking questions and that thirst for knowledge were the keys to success in each of the roles that I've had. Some of the call outs, I would say, in terms of key steps that guided and supported me, I was able to build really strong relationships and networks, gather mentors and trusted advisors. I was always open and continue to be open to possibility. And I ask for feedback and take the action. After 19 years with Verizon, I made the move to Comcast. And I've been with Comcast for 5 years, and I love what I do. I am now immersed in the world of IP, AI, cloud, and data center technology platforms as the industry continues to transform. And balancing that, I am also immersed in the customer experience and employee experience. So I feel like I get to have the best of all worlds. At Comcast, we like to say that we're not a cable company. We are a connection company. We connect people to moments that matter the most through a network that's always on, always connected, and always evolving. And I feel so much of that in 2020 in terms of what we've been able to do, both for virtual education, the numbers of folks who are working from home, and as we've tried to shift how we think about our business to how our customers operate. And then from an employee perspective, we've really leaned in hard to make sure that our employees have a great experience, and in 2020, a safe experience with the work that they're doing. I'm excited to come to work every day to serve our business, to serve our customers and our employees. Some of my comfort, I would say, in developing and thriving in a career in technology really, I believe, had to do with the way that I was raised. I never felt that there was anything I couldn't do while I was growing up. My parents believed in us, myself and my two sisters, and often told us, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it and you work hard. No promise of being the best, no easy way to achieve your goals, hard work, focus, commitment. Again, simple, practical advice. As I think about where I am today in this in this piece of my journey with Comcast, I have the opportunity to really lean in terms of our employee resource groups, mentorship, and I have mentorship relationships that have gone back 15, 20 years. The ability to sponsor folks with, different backgrounds coming into technology, and then all of the work that our company does around STEM initiatives. As much as my parents believed in my sisters and I, the entree into the work world was, and quite frankly, continues to fascinate me. So I'm going to share with you a couple of comments I've heard over my career. So the first is, why would a nice girl like you want to work in a field like this? And this was advice from a chief of police as I considered a field in criminal justice. You're the first woman supervisor I've ever had in my career. This was from a switch technologist when I worked for Verizon. I never thought you'd come down into this manhole, Leslie, and learn how to splice from one of my cable techs. This is the one that sticks with me, and what I really lean into in my mentoring with others is I was asked, would you mind taking the meeting notes, Leslie, from a peer director who was a man? And then one of my favorites, this is me talking to one of my direct reports. I have someone I'd like you to interview for your manager role. And the director on my team said, oh, great, what's his name? And my comment back was, why would you assume it's a him? The candidate is actually a her. So, as we think about those moments, they continue to sit with me, and I like to share those stories because I truly believe that, they're things folks can learn from. So over the many years I've encountered skepticism, challenges, and years of being the only woman on the team in technology operations and engineering operations. None of that was ever an issue for me. My competitive spirit, my goal to excel personally and professionally my desire to leave a team better than it was before I arrived, all of those things superseded any challenges I've had as a woman in a male-dominated field. I dove right into technology, the art of leadership, learning the organization, the skill set of the work. But there were many lessons I learned along the way that I wish I had learned earlier in my career, and they're up here on this slide. So I'll talk through some of them and how I overcame them. So having my voice heard, this really is the foundation of my passion for mentorship, especially with women. Learn to project your voice and speak with confidence. Always sit at the table. If you are invited to the meeting, sit at the table and sit strategically at the table. Being taken seriously. So never offer to take notes. Don't allow yourself to be delegated as the note taker. And I know that that's easier to say than it is to do, but it diminishes your role in the meeting. Review agendas for every meeting. Be prepared. Practice before presenting and ask for feedback. Anticipate difficult questions in any presentation or any conversation that you're having, and avoid qualifying language. So again, this is a real moment in my mentorship with others, that qualifying language. Sorry to ask a silly question. I know this probably isn't right, but, and that takes a lot of practice because 20 years later, I still find myself doing it, but I have accountability partners who will call me out when I do that. Being tested and always having to prove myself. So trust your instinct and understand if you're being tested, and then seek time with the tester. Ask for coaching, feedback, and aligned support. So I'll give you an example. I had a senior vice president that I worked for when I was with Verizon. And in every team meeting, I was the only technology operations female in the room. He would drill me with probably 50% more questions and targeted questions than anyone else in the room. And it would get me to the verge of almost being in tears. So after the last straw meeting that I had, I went and I met with him and I had the conversation. Why do you ask me more questions and targeted questions of me than anyone else in the room? And his response was, I've been waiting for you to come and ask me this question. And then I aligned on that can't happen anymore. I can't allow that to happen, and you can't do that to me. So the learnings, right? These are the things that I would share with all of you that I've learned through my career journey, right? Be open to possibility, take the chance, ask the questions, build that village of support. Paying it forward is not simply expected, but it's required in order to ensure that women rise in non-traditional fields. Those who have cleared the pathways, no matter how much or how little clearing has to be done, we have to reach out to other women and support and lift their journey. We owe that to one another. Focus on your knowledge, skills, and leadership. Improve them and excel. Don't focus on the naysayers. There'll always be naysayers. And then owning your voice, asking the questions, sharing your viewpoint. We all matter simply because we're people. We were invited to the meeting, the discussion, the conversation, actively and appropriately participate. Sorry. Okay. Know that every opportunity that comes your way is an opportunity to clear the way for the next generation of women to rise higher and to make more of an impact with fewer obstacles. This is part of your legacy. Don't apologize. Stop saying, I'm sorry. Don't use qualifiers. Own your conversation. Be authentically yourself. And I wish I had learned that right at the get-go. Life is too short to be anything else. Be brave. Get the tattoo. Pierce the nose. Wear the fun clothing. Be you. Be authentically you. Passion. You need to have passion for the work that you do and the company that you work for. I absolutely love, as I said, working for Comcast NBCU. I'm so proud to work for a company that has strong core values, community investment, diversity and inclusion, integrity in the environment, always paying it forward and giving back. I am proud to work for a company that invests equally in the customer experience and employee experience. I know. This is so awkward, but I apologize. And I know I shouldn't. As we close out the conversation, I've come to appreciate the unique opportunities that I've had throughout my career. And I also have come to understand my responsibility to others in support of their career and their career journey. So I'm going to leave you with this call to action. I know we said there were 3, but there are actually 5. So share your stories, the good and the not so good. People will learn from your stories and what you've experienced. Be bold and be authentic. Find a protege. Make time for mentorship. Mentor men, mentor women. This next bullet for me is so important. Support STEM initiatives. Invest in the future. Invest in our future. It's so important that young people see women in tech. We are the future that they see in themselves, the possibility. Fuel the talent pipeline. Help develop other people. Give non-traditionals a chance. Those different experiences, different backgrounds support an interesting shift in technology and engineering operations in some very interesting and meaningful ways. And for the men in the audience, I would say participate in women's events. And women, I would ask you to invite men to the conversation. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my story with you and my passion for women in tech. There's a lot more work to be done. And, I believe if each of us does a little bit, it makes a huge difference. So I'll turn it back over to Shannon. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Leslie, thank you so much for your words today. I really loved how you focused on being authentic and confident in yourself, and sometimes just closing your eyes and jumping versus getting too trapped in your own thoughts of how you won't be successful. So that really rang true to me. So thank you for that today. We're very lucky to have you in our community. I'm hoping we will get some questions. Currently, we don't have any. We've got one right now. Megan Feely asks, who was your biggest mentor through your career? What was the best advice or lesson they may have taught you?
So a woman that was my initial assigned mentor when I came into 9X. She and I have been friends now for over 20 years. And her advice to me was very similar to my father's, quite frankly. Learn the technology from the people that do the job. People love to tell other people what it is that they do. And by listening and asking questions and sitting with the people that do the job every day, not only are you going to be able to understand it, you'll be able to identify where there are gaps, where things that we can improve, and how we can create efficiency in the operation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any specific advice for women who may be transitioning careers from a non-tech into a technology sector?
So again, I would say, I feel like it's really important to create, and this is what I've done in every role as I entered my technology career, create a 30, 60, 90-day plan that focuses on people, understanding the people that you're working with, creating relationships, building that network. I mean, that 30, 60, 90-day plan has to be really intentional. Who are the people that you need to connect with? They become your village. Then understand the processes. Understand what the, what are the different processes used in the organization. Then the technology, and this is kind of all interspersed, obviously. So I break it always into 4 buckets: the people, the processes, the technology, and then what are the big strategic goals and how do you fit into those goals from a technology perspective. So taking that 30, 60, 90, then I would get time with my leader, whoever it was at the time, every week just to do a check-in for the first 30 days. Then maybe we'd move to every 2 weeks just to make sure that, here's what I've done, here's where I have questions, here's where, am I on track, and who else, I have these questions, who else should I go to? So having a really intentional plan helps a lot. And every role you go into from a technology perspective, or as you move up in your career, it really helps you to kind of build that foundation and then build upon it.
Thank you. We have a question about positioning yourself at the meeting. Could you elaborate on any tips you might have there?
Certainly. So, the way the way I approach it and the way I coach and mentor people. So as you enter a room, understand where the most senior person is sitting at the table. And typically they're either in the middle of the table or at one of the ends. And you want to make sure that you've got visibility with that person. So you're either sitting so they can see you and you can see them, or directly across the table. So that positioning is key. And then knowing that, again, you've been invited to the meeting, never sit against the wall. Never sit in a place where you're, you might want to push in and not be seen. Be seen, be visible, and, own that space in that room. And that's one of the lessons I wished, again, I had learned early on. Very often I'd be invited to a meeting and I would sit back against the wall, even if there were seats available, literally at the table. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I would offer.
No, I think that that's definitely helpful. And, the physical space that we take up does make a difference. Someone's asking about being an over-apologizer. Do you have some go-to phrases or ways to avoid qualifying language, whether in emails or in person?
So one of my favorite phrases is always so can you help me understand? Or can you be a little clearer with me about that, versus I'm sorry to ask this question, but it's flipping the switch. Can you help me understand what you mean by that? Or can you help me understand what needs to be done here? So that's one of my go-to phrases, or simply cutting out the I'm sorry and having that, I have a question I'd like to, I have a question I'd like to ask. I will tell you, one of the most powerful things over the last 5 years for me has been to have that accountability partner in a meeting with me to say, if you hear me use qualifying language, write it down, and then can we connect after the meeting? And maybe you can give me some coaching and some feedback on if I use it, what I should say. And that's been powerful, because honestly, there are moments when I still do it today. It's a hard habit to break.
And I think this goes along with that question. Are there any tips for specifically deflecting the can you take notes sort of requests? Confrontational, humor, what works for you?
So I've used I'm not a really good note taker, or I've also used, I can't multitask. I can't listen to the conversation and write at the same time. Just not a great skill that I have. And then depending on the person, you can use the humor, or what I like to call humor, sarcasm. I think you'd be really good at taking the notes. Why don't you do it? Something like that. But again, it depends on the person. It depends on the, how well you know them. But using the, I'm not really good at taking notes. It's not one of my skill sets, or I can't multitask. I need to really listen, pay attention in this meeting.
That makes sense to me, but a little nerve-wracking to do, I'm sure, that first time.
The first time is the hardest. And then after that, all it takes is that one conversation, and then you're empowered and you feel like, yeah, I got this, I can do this.
There are a couple questions around supporting women that are coming up in their careers. So the first one is around mentorship. As a willing mentor, how do you invite someone to join you in that relationship?
So if I see, I guess it's multiple ways. So sometimes people will reach out to me directly. So that's the easiest way to do it. And if they're willing to do the work, I'm willing to take them on as a mentee. There are other times where I see talent in people, and I'll reach out to them directly and say, hey, do you have a mentor? Have you ever thought about, I've worked with women in sales, women who have come from university and educational backgrounds, and have reached out to them and said, started those conversations. Let's have a chat. What are you thinking about for the next steps in your career journey? And really just, that's how it starts. It's either me identifying somebody, or I'll hear about somebody through some of our talent meetings and our talent discussions, and then I'll do that proactive reach out. Because if they're coming to the table as an overall succession person, I want to know who that person is and see if we can move them into this, a non-traditional role for them.
Excellent. And I think this goes along with it, but on a more macro level, what can employers do to help support women in their careers, especially if the person wants to make a career change like you did?
So I think it's being open and really having a strong talent succession plan that is focused on diversity and inclusion. But again, I'm going to go back to what a lot of this is grassroots within a company, right? Big programs, that's all wonderful, that's great, that really helps support, but it takes individuals like myself, like you, like all the folks in the room today to really make their transactional difference. Be a mentor, be a sponsor, those one-on-one relationships. I'll share a quick moment. I've spent over 30 years of my life really focused on mentoring women, and then the last 20 years, women in tech. I had an epiphany in April, after the George Floyd incident. And as much time as I've spent really focusing on women and girls in tech, I've now really focused my efforts a little bit more granular on women of color and girls of color. When I look around the table, I may be one of two women, but there are very rarely women of color at the table. And when I think about STEM initiatives, that's another place where, so I'm really trying to think more, from a diversity and inclusion perspective as I move on throughout my career. There's a lot to be done there.
I agree. There is so much. And, I think it does take women like you that look at it and continually evolve how you approach where you want to lead and how you want to lead. So the reflection that you have due to events that happen in the world and change, I think that's awesome. And that's probably what's made you successful as a mentor in the past. There looks like there are a couple follow-up questions. One is, what do you recommend when you hear male comments, some of the ones that you had mentioned? How did you react to those, and how would you maybe react to those today? Questioning you if you knew what you were doing, or, surprised that you would actually want to be hands-on.
Yeah, so I think sharing the stories is an important piece, right? So early on, those first couple of examples that I shared, I didn't know enough to be able to have an appropriate conversation back, or, I was really kind of just shocked by it. But but the most, the one that I shared about the director who thought I was going to, it was going to be a male person that I wanted him to speak with. I think having those quick comebacks around why would you think it was a man? It's actually a woman, and kind of stopping people in their tracks for that moment. And there are parts of conversations even today where that are happening around me, and I'm included last minute, and so I lean into those and say, is there a reason why I wasn't included from at the beginning of this project or this meeting or whatever it might be. I think you have to really kind of figure out how to have those moments and those quick comebacks that aren't harsh or aggressive, that are just really a reflection moment for that other person.
Absolutely. And I think that this question's a bit of a follow-up on proper positioning. We're now in a virtual world, right? So the conference tables are now happening online. How should we adapt to that? How can we make ourselves a part of the meeting when we're in a remote space?
So I think that, honestly, I'm still trying to figure that one out for myself. So when I'm in Teams meetings and I'm in virtual meetings, what I have found through this experience is the men will talk over and they talk louder, and for whatever reason, they're recognized. So there are all kinds of different features, right? Depending on the platform you use. So you could use the raise your hand feature. You could put something in a chat. And so I've tried all of those. So now what I do is I connect with a peer or even my boss, and I'll text and say, I want to jump in here. Can you create the way for me? Because it's not easy. The virtual environment, I think, is just puts even more complexity in those seat at the table conversations. And he's, my boss has given me some good tools to practice in terms of, getting into the conversation, like, hey, just like to stop you for a minute. I have a question, or, I'd like to follow up on whatever, it might be. So I'm trying those things as well. So if you've got any good tips, share them with me.
If anyone has any good tips, I think we'll all take them at this point.
That's right.
But the one thing I notice is video is easier than phone. So whenever we possibly can do it, to do a video meeting, to read body language and have conversations versus the phone, because that's the real one where everyone talks over each other and interrupts, right?
That is true.
It looks like we've got a final question here, and then we will wrap up and move to just some open networking. It's, how do you go about selecting a qualified partner or mentor for yourself? Could it be someone at your level, or how do you find someone?
So that great question. So I'll share a couple of things. I collect mentors like people collect scars, I guess. So throughout my career, I create this, I'm going to call it my toolkit of mentors and advisors, and I pull from them for different things. And so, I've got folks who are managers in the business who I will go to for advice, feedback, coaching. I've got peers, trusted peers. I have folks outside of our organization, but I'm all about, what does that person have that I want, that, I need to develop in myself, and how can they help me? I will tell you a really quick story. I'm part of the Women in Cable Technology, and I signed up to be a mentor. And the young woman that is my mentee, that was the most powerful relationship I have ever had in my career. She's in her 20s. I'm a little older than my 20s. But boy, I learned so much from her. I learned more from her, I think, than she learned from me. And we still have a relationship today. I mean, she gives me feedback, insights, her observations. So I would say look for, and that just was a created moment and I just lucked out. But I always look for, what does this person have that I could learn more about, or that, I need to add to my toolkit? And then I'll always go back to the mentors I had early in my career if it's for a specific piece. So it's really building that village. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. We don't have any follow-up. So I think we're good. Leslie, thank you again for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And thanks for hanging tough through the technology issues. We all face them. So, I think it's a great reminder that, we all just need to keep rolling with things right now, and nothing needs to be perfect, but the conversations still need to happen. And we need to continue to build the Tech Women community. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And then just a couple of closing remarks that I have. Thank you all to have joined today's event. On behalf of the New Hampshire Tech Alliance, the Luncheon Committee, and myself, we definitely appreciate your time, your continued support for the Tech Women, Tech Girls program, and I really hope to see you all in person next year and not a virtual event. We welcome you all to network. For those that are not familiar with the remote platform, you can move from table to table, give you the opportunity to say hello to our speaker, say hello to our award winners, and our amazing sponsors and committee. Thank you all and have a great day.